started doing exchanges with the Malenko School, where I met a friend named Phyllis Lee. And Phyllis was she worked for Professor Malenko, Larry, and she started corresponding with me. And at one point, I was pretty much going to go to Malenko School, and then I found out, the cost of living down there was a little bit more than I had saved up for. And she had told me, there's a guy in Ohio named Al Snow. The tuition's about the same, but the cost of living is far less, and you can actually live in the school. And I was like, on blind faith. I had never seen Al. I had heard of Al. I had never seen Al wrestle. And on blind faith, I sent this woman who I'd only known from letters the tuition to the school, and started making plans on moving to Ohio to train with Al.
Wow, so there was an actual area in that school where you could sleep.
Yeah, the cool thing about Al Snow's school, Body Slammers, in Lima, Ohio. It was in an old Masonic temple. The building was like 6 or 7 stories, and we had floor 5 and 6. So when you went into the building, you took an elevator up to the 5th floor, and then you go out there, you turn to the right, there's like a living area, there's a commons area with couch, TV, love seats. You go a little further, there's a kitchen. If you make a left out of the elevator, there's Al's office, and then if you go around, there's like bedrooms, and then there was also an area that Al had set up for weights. And then if you go upstairs, there's a balcony area with more rooms and stuff like that. But the area with the ring was really cool. It looked like a miniature Manhattan Center, like where they did Monday Night Raw, where the future, eventually they would do Monday Night Raw, where there's the ring, there's the balconies on all sides, and there was a stage where the Masons would do their services back in the day. And then, there was, there was 2 entranceways, which I'm sure were for whatever mass services, but Al turned them into, entranceways for wrestling, and behind that was the gym area where you could work out with weights and stuff like that. So Al had a really sweet setup, which I had no idea going into this, because like I said, I had sent that letter and that money to Phyllis in blind faith. I drove 13 hours from Atlantic City to Lima, Ohio to meet a guy I'd never seen wrestle, just for the fact that this lady who had represented Malenko said, Al's the good dude. And this is right around the time Al was starting to really make a name for himself with his feud with Sabu. They just had their first match, which was this breakout match that made its way around with all the tape traders at the time. And once I got the funny thing is, I drive 13 hours to meet this guy I'd never met, don't know what he looks like. And I go, "Hi, is Al Snow here?" He goes, "Hi, I'm Al, and I'm leaving right now because I'm driving up to Michigan to get padding for the ring from Dan to be Severn." So it was like, "Hi, bye," and I sat around for several hours with some of his students. Most of them were cool, and then some were interesting. And I almost packed up my car and turned around and drove right back to Lima, just because. It was my first time away from leaving home. People leave home to go to college where they learn to be a doctor or whatever, or an accountant. I left home to become a professional wrestler in an industry that had no guarantees whatsoever. There's zero opportunity and guarantees in the wrestling business to make it. Whereas, if you become a doctor or a mechanic, nobody's on the side of the road with their car broken down going, "Man, I wish there was a pro wrestler here to help fix my car." Yeah. Somebody always needs a mechanic. Somebody always needs their taxes done or whatever. But I was very fortunate to be steered towards Al's school, and on blind faith.
Is there anyone that was training there at the same time as you that went on to make a name for themselves?
When I started training with Al had just started training Dan Severn for pro wrestling, and because Dan had been doing, his credentials speak for themselves, there was a few guys that actually should have been bigger than they became. There's a wrestler named Geza Coleman who was wrestling as the Kodiak at the time, and then he wrestled as Crom. Big, burly Canadian dude. He would drive. There was a crew of guys who would drive down from Ontario area, like Windsor area, stuff like that. They would drive down on the weekends and train. There's guys who would drive down from Michigan. There was a kid named Jimmy V, Jim Varner, who had some success. He would go and do the Super 8s for Jim Kentner down in Delaware, but then he started making, as he was wrestling, he started getting to the fitness thing, and he became one of the top fitness experts, and he actually had a couple students on a couple clients on The Biggest Loser, the weight loss competition, where he would train them, and they would go on to try to lose weight and win that competition and stuff like that. But myself, you have to break it down, because there's Al Snow's Body Slammers Gym, and then you would have to break it off into the Tough Enough category, because he had.
Oh, there's so many people he's trained.
Yeah, so many trainings. But as far as the Body Slammers era, Al Snow, because eventually he closed down Body Slammers when he started doing Smoky Mountain, and that started picking up. And when he went to WWE, he said, I can't put my name on something if I'm not there full time and have my name on it. Oh, also at Body Slammers, guys like Reckless Youth went there to polish up their skills. D'Lo Brown went there to work on and train and polish up his skills. So it would be myself, Dan Severn, D'Lo Brown, and Reckless Youth.
Didn't Steve Austin even go there once to polish up his skills?
Unfortunately, I missed Steve by maybe a couple months. Steve had been working for ECW, and he had just hurt his tricep or something like that, and he was going back to the WWE. He was going to the WWE, and he wanted to get some of the ring rust off, and he went there to train with Al. And I'd left maybe 3 months prior. So yeah, but Steve went there for a good week to train with Al and knock off some of the ring rust.